Well, here we are laying an 18mm thick solid oak floor. This is the progress so far and what it looks like. And it's a nice effect. The boards are all different lengths, and mixing and matching and not overloading the joints and making it look fairly even is a bit trouble. You know, you wonder if it's going to look okay, but in fact it does. And I've laid two of these floors before, using exactly the same stock of wood, and I've learned from my previous experiences of laying these floors is they give a beautiful finish. And I wanted something that would sand down, you know, as it wears over the years, rather than the engineered snap together pieces which are made of laminate or something. I wanted real wood. And I read the reviews of this stuff, and as I say, I've used it twice, and the critiques that people were making were, or namely, is that the quality control is poor. And on the face of it, that seems to be correct. But having said that, for the price, this stuff is amazing. If you look at normal solid oak flooring, it's a lot more expensive per square metre. I paid something like 20 quid a square metre for this, and it's a nice piece of wood. It's solid. You've got all the different patterns and shades, but there are some problems, and the problems are alluded to on the internet. So, as I say, this is the third floor I've laid, so I've learnt to find my way around them. So if you're going to put one of these down, you might want to watch this and just avoid the issues I had before. You can see in front of me, there's the stock there. That's the rest of the stock, and I do all this area here. But the main problem, well, actually there's two problems. The main problem is the width of the boards. They're supposed to be 83mm. You can see these boxes at the back here. We've got numbers on, and the ones in the zero pile are actually 83, and the ones in the one pile are 83.1, 83.2, 83.3, 83.4, 83.5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the ones right on the end are like 1mm. And these, which aren't even oak, they're beech. You can see the grain on those. That's beech. There's a few beech ringers in the package. They're like 84.5mm, so they're completely out of spec on the width, okay? So I've been grading them slowly into piles, and trust me, if you grade them this way, it'll go down a lot better, a lot easier, and you won't be tearing your hair out when you start to get gaps. And if you think some of these are 0.9 of a millimetre out, if you lay a box down, your floor, you know, instead of a nice straight line down the room, it's going to start veering off by, say, up to 10mm with 10 boards by the time you've done the whole thing, which you don't want to do. So the best thing is keep it square by doing the grading. So the way I grade it, I've done with my caliper, there it is. So on this caliper, it's set to, I zeroed it, set it to 83, and then zeroed the caliper, so that when this caliper is reading 0, like it will be in a second there, around about there, that gap is a standard 83, which is the spec of the boards, okay? And you simply pick them up and do a couple of measurements on each board across this top part here, look, and there, and that's reading 83.75. so it's in the, if it's 0.75 or below, or about 0.65, it goes in the 0.7 pile. And what you do is you pick from this piles when you're laying the floor. So per row, you build up enough boards to make up a row, lay them out how you want to put them in, and just make sure they're all the same width, otherwise you're going to have trouble. And the other thing is, these boards, a lot of these boards are engineered. You can see these slots in the back. You're supposed to put clips and put them down with clips. Whatever you do, do not use the clips. They're absolute rubbish, and you'll end up with a creaking, horrible floor, okay? So don't buy the clips. They're a complete waste of time. And, you know, I really feel for people that have followed the instructions on this, because you don't get up with a great floor. But if you do it properly, it makes an excellent floor at a very, very reasonable price. And what I had to do is to import this tool. This is a what make is it? Freeman nail gun, flooring nail gun, And this is a particularly good one because it does 18 gauge and 16 gauge, and it fires in these metal cleats, flooring cleats, okay, which are, if you use the 18 gauge, they're much thinner than the 16 gauge, and it doesn't split the wood. So to find an 18 gauge flooring nailer that was pneumatic, you can see the nails have been hammered subflush. There's one there, look, can you see the end of the nail? That's what it looks like, so it doesn't interfere with the fitting of the next board, right? But I found the 16 gauge one, which I've tried before, splits the wood. So this Freeman, a Freeman nailer from Canada, it's about $189, and Freeman cleats, and also Freeman make cleats in the right length. Normally they're 50 millimeters or 25, and if you're nailing through this into 18mm chipboard, you need the 1.5 inch cleats to make the right length, so it doesn't go through the bottom of the chipboard, hit some wiring or a pipe or something like that. So the great thing about this is when you have this mounted, there's a step under here that fits onto the board there, and when you got it in position, you welt the end of this with a hammer and it pushes the board in and then fires a nail in, so it makes the gaps close up. Obviously, if you've got the wrong width boards, like a 1mm or 8.5mm board, you will get some horrible gaps. That's why I've graded them in width, okay? I'll give you a demonstration of this being used, but great piece of kit. In the UK, air-driven nailers are 300-400 quid, and I think there is only one power nail make an 18 gauge one, I think, but they don't do the different lengths of cleats, so I've used the Freeman cleats because they're made of decent steel and they go straight through and they're very tough. And this thing's been working a treat, and I've done this much flooring. It makes it so quick, and for the money you can sell it on eBay afterwards if you're never going to do a floor again. But to do a good job you need one of these as well. So I'll show it to you working, and I thought you might find that interesting if you're doing an 18mm hardwood floor, solid hardwood floor. Okay, just going to fit a few boards just to show you how it works. Yeah, so into position. Lined up. Into position, strike. You say food's ready?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Do you want coffee?
Decaf, please. Yeah, the floor is complete and I'm very pleased with it. It's lovely and flat, it doesn't creak, everything's locked together. As you can see, there are no big gaps between the boards. It's all come out very well. And yeah, I just thought I'd give a quick overview of this Freeman nail gun which I bought, which is a flooring nailer. And I imported this one from Canada because that's where it's manufactured. And the reason as I said before, the reason that I used the Freeman one was that Freeman, as well as having very good nails, as well as being an 18 gauge and a 16 gauge nailer, the 18 gauge are smaller than the 16, so they're just a bit kinder on the floor, less likely to split, etc. And they do them in 1.5 inch lengths, which is the right length for this 18mm flooring on top of 18mm chipboard. 45 degrees, the nails just come up sub-flush to the far side of the chipboard, so it doesn't go through and hit any wiring or piping or anything like that. So the whole thing was straightforward. It worked very well. The gun never misfired, never locked. I never had any jams. And this all happens by putting this flat on the floor, this pushing up into the tongue part, and then it fires the nail when you strike the striker. So it pushes the floorboards together and fires the nails and holds them together at the right time. And I use, typically on the short boards, I use 2, and on the longer boards, I use 3 nails per length. And there's the cleat there. Very easy to load. That's one cleat, that's an 18 gauge flooring cleat. And they come in this packet. You can see them in there. I used 3 packets on this floor. Okay, so I've got 1 packet. So what I'm going to do with this, it loads up the nails very easily. It's very nicely made, very solid feel to this tool. And of course I'll never use it again. I don't think I'll ever probably, never say never, but I don't think I'll ever going to lay a floor again. So I think this is going back in its original box and on eBay. But Freeman, I rate it actually. I think the 18mm solid wood flooring in the UK really don't have an effective laying technique, but you can see that this kind of flooring is much more common in America, and this is what they devised, and it's very quick and very easy to use. So a good tool, a very good tool, very solid, very nice indeed. So there you go, that's that, job done. Hope you found that interesting.